Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Jacob Davidson from North Texas. It's nice to see everybody. I haven't gotten everything set up just yet, but I am trying to make sure I get the show started a little bit on time because, I'm definitely significantly late because it's not 3 o'clock, it is 3:40, and I have not started anything yet. So I'm getting all the chats popped out, getting everything set up so that way the stream is actually going proper and I can see everything. Well then. Of course I gotta deal with a little bit of lag. Pop out. There's this. Here's this. Yeah. Damn it. That works. Alright, I think I'm all set. I haven't streamed for a couple days. Sorry about that. I was trying to figure out what to do. I think I'm not going to be streaming on Wednesday, Thursday, I don't think. I will try to more occasionally, but I don't know if I'll be able to or not. Also, luckily, I have an AC unit that you might be able to hear a little bit. If I've got the sound check or sound balancing right, you might not be able to hear it much at all. If you do, let me know and I'll sound check it again to make sure it's better. And I'll start trying to upload content for the locals page. I want to start singing, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. Hold on. Alright. Everything's in a slow process right now. Just gotta send this out to the locals people. And then after that, we'll get right into the topics. Hopefully I'll have enough to span the 2 hours and 20 minutes I should be streaming. I realized I didn't start the stream on time, so it won't be exactly 3 hours. And I need the last 2 hours to get my rice and protein ready for my day at work. What is Wednesday stream? Alright, with that, I've sent the link everywhere I want it to go. With that, I will start getting on to the topics. Warm the tea. Man, that is so convenient. Alright, so the topics of the stream, as you can see, double SCOTUS. What that means is basically the Supreme Court abortion pill ruling has come in on the emergency review. There's a secondary decision from Amy Coney Barrett, which is not a decision, it's more she's asked to recuse herself from ruling on an issue. I figured. I had a chuckle. So Amy Coney Barrett asked for recusal on an issue. Kamala Harris makes statements basically calling out people who are Congress for not standing up to the NRA, despite, the NRA just simply being an organization, at least on paper, standing up for our rights to keep and bear arms. Although they're stupid about video games. Gun stores selling out of guns in Texas, or not in Texas, just everywhere, I think. Let's see what. You can watch and find out. So gun stores running out of guns amid threats or fear of assault weapon bans. And then the CPS. The CPS in DeSoto, Texas has finally returned the baby back to their kids. Or returned the baby back to their parents. At last. It should never have happened. However, it happened, and we'll get to that whenever we get to it. Over jaundice. Before we do all that, if you're interested in supporting me and supporting somebody else while also getting something out of it, get some tea. Some Dragon's Treasure tea. With code Layman for 10% off at checkout, you can get everything that you want for 10% off. I need to work on that. But yeah, code Layman at Dragon's Treasure. You can look at it yourself. I'll get into it later on, hopefully at the hour and 2 hour mark. But yeah, code Layman. Support me. And we're going to get right into the topic. Oh, yeah, I should also say I got Sony Vegas, so I'm gonna probably start working on making my own videos and getting them uploaded to the channel, so that way there's some short form videos rather than the hour-long videos that I've been posting. But yeah, that's a work in progress. Let's see. Focus. There we go. Oh shit. Alright, so the Supreme Court decision came down on Friday, yesterday. Samuel Alito used his dissent in the abortion pill ruling to call out 3 justices in an active judiciary theater, SCOTUS expert says. Supreme Court ruled to uphold FDA approval of the abortion pill on Friday. Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito publicly dissented, with Alito writing an opinion. And SCOTUS experts said it appeared Alito was accusing the 3 female justices of hypocrisy. The 3 female justices were probably Keegan, Brown, and Sotomayor. I can only assume they had all the votes to keep it down. Why didn't they? Why didn't they basically say no, they don't have the... They didn't have the approval, or they didn't have, I don't know, something? A Supreme Court ruling on Friday ensured the abortion pill mifepristone can still be purchased and used in the U.S., freezing a lower court ruling that would have effectively banned access to the pill. 2 justices, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, publicly dissented, with the latter writing an opinion in which he called out the 3 female justices by name, including female or fellow conservative Justice Coney Barrett. In an apparent act of judiciary theater, Scott Lemuel, a professor of political science at the University of Washington and an expert on the Supreme Court and constitutional law, told insiders. The case came to the court after a judge in Texas ruled to suspend the FDA's more than 20-year approval of mifepristone. The Biden administration asked the Supreme Court to grant an emergency request that would protect the FDA approval while the case is still being litigated. Because it was an emergency request, the case was reviewed under what is known as the court's shadow docket, where they rule on procedural matters. Cases that are considered on the shadow docket do not get the same level of review as other cases, meaning the decisions are accompanied by little to no explanation and often lack clarity on which justices are in the majority or minority, according to the Brennan Center of Justice for Justice. Indeed, while the court said they were granting the Biden administration's request, no explanation was provided by the majority as to why. The ruling did not specify how most of the justices voted, or even how justices voted in favor. Both Thomas and Alito elected to note their dissent, with only one of them explaining why. Oh, then I guess this opinion is short. Application. Thomas was done. The applications for stay. Justice Alito dissenting from grants of applications for stays. Huh. I'm going to read his full opinion here and then go back to the article. Dissenting from grant of applications for stay. In recent cases, the Supreme Court has been lambasted for staying a district court order based on the scanty review this court gives matters on its shadow docket. Morell versus Milligan. In another, we are criticized for ruling on a stay application while barely bothering to explain our conclusion, a disposition that was labeled as emblematic of too much of its court's shadow docket decision making, which every day becomes more unreasonable. Whole Health versus Jackson. Dissenting from denial of application for injunctive relief. And in the third case in which stay was granted, we were condemned for not exhibiting the restraint that was supposedly exercised in the past and for not resisting the government's efforts to shortcut normal process. Barr versus East Bay Sanctuary Covenant. Barrett J. concurring in denial of application for injunctive relief. Warning that the court should not act on the short fuse without benefit of full briefing and oral arguments, in a case that is first to address the questions presented. I did not agree with these criticisms at the time, but if they were warranted in the cases in which they were made, then they are emphatically true here. As narrowed by the Court of Appeals, the stay that would apply if we failed to broaden it would not remove mifepristone from the market. It would simply restore the circumstances that existed, and that the government defended from 2000 to 2016 under 3 presidential administrations. In addition, because the application's Fifth Circuit appeals has been put on a fast track with oral arguments scheduled to take place in 26 days, there's reason to believe that they would get the relief they now seek from either the Court of Appeals or this court. In addition, because the applicant's Fifth Circuit appeals has been on the fast track. In the near future, if their arguments on the merits are persuasive, at present the applications are not entitled to stay because they are not shown that they are likely to suffer irreparable harm in the interim. The applicants claim that regulatory chaos would occur due to an allegation or due to an alleged conflict between the relief awarded in this case or in these cases and the relief provided by decisions of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Washington. It's not clear that there actually is a conflict because relief in these cases is a stay, not an injunction. But even if there was a conflict, that should not be given any weight. Our granting of a stay of a lower court decision is an equitable remedy. Also, this conflict stated here is a lie. It's an actual lie. Because the Washington decision does not basically say that the mifepristone is going to be unregulated and unfettered. It's basically saying the FDA cannot make a restriction again on mifepristone in the matters of the 2000. Sorry, getting my head back on. Hold on. Fuck. The Washington decision of mifepristone was not on whether or not the drug should stay on the market. It was a ruling on whether or not the FDA had the ability to put restrictions on it as they were. Because the FDA was going to make it so that way you had to get, what was it? That only a certified technician or a certified doctor was the only one that was a certified pharmacist. A certified pharmacist was the only one that was allowed to prescribe drugs over the mail or over mail. Meanwhile, the Fifth Circuit ruling in Texas was a decision based off of whether or not the drug was even permissible by the FDA's own rulings or own rules. I'm guessing, and also, I've been mentioning it every time I see it, but the Comstock Act is pretty important in the mentions in the way of the Fifth Circuit ruling. So I can only imagine how much the Comstock Act is going to actually matter anymore. But yeah, this whole conflict is an absolute lie. If anybody mentioned that there would have been conflict, they're lying outright. It's not clear that these... Okay, but even then, this conflict should not be given any weight. Our granting of a stay of a lower court's decision is an equitable remedy. It should not be given if the moving party has not acted equitably, and that is the situation here. The FDA, or the Food Drug Administration, has engaged in what has become the practice of leveraging district courts' injunctions as a basis for implementing a desired policy while evading both necessary agency procedures and judicial review. Arizona v. City and County of San Francisco. The Washington District Court engaged in the FDA from altering its current practice regarding mifepristone, something that the FDA had never hinted it was contemplating. The FDA did not appeal that the appealable order, and the FDA did not appeal that appealable order, and when 7 states that might take such an appeal asked to intervene, the FDA opposed their request. This series of events laid the foundation for the government's regulatory chaos argument. Oh, so the FDA is playing their own fucking game, it seems. Okay. Thank you, Alito. This has been very illuminating. I'm so glad someone would call this out. Once this argument is put aside, the applicant's argument on irreparable harm is largely reduced to the claim that Danco could not continue to market mifepristone because the drug would be mislabeled, and that distribution could not resume until Danco jumped through a series of regulatory steps that would be largely perfunctory under present circumstances. That would not take place, however, unless the FDA elected to use its enforcement discretion to stop Danco, and the applicant's papers did not provide any reasons to believe that the FDA would make that choice. The FDA has previously invoked enforcement discretion to permit the distribution of mifepristone in a way that the regulations then in force prohibited, and here the government has not dispelled legitimate doubts that it would even obey an unfavorable order in these cases, much less that it would choose to take enforcement actions to which it has strong objections. For these reasons, I would deny the stay applicants, contrary to the impression that may be held by many, that dispositions would not express any view on the merits of the questions whether the FDA acted lawfully in any of its actions regarding mifepristone. Rather, it would simply refuse to take a step that has not been shown as necessary to avoid the threat of any real harm during the presumably short period at issue. So basically, Alito called out fucking the FDA. And I'm guessing this, at the start, is where they're coming from. Kagan J. Sotomayor J. I'm guessing J means justice. Okay, so Brown is not even mentioned. Brown actually, now that I'm thinking about it, hasn't even actually had a chance to mention any of this. Brown's barely been on the bench, so I kind of very unfairly made an estimation or a presumption that it was her. But no, it was not Brown or Johnson. Fuck. Ketanji Jackson Brown. Elvin Break. Welcome to my shitty fucking CPU speed. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Indeed, so back to the article at hand. Hold on. Oh. Indeed, while the court said they were granting the Biden administration's request, no explanation was provided by the majority as to why. The ruling did not specify how most of the justices voted or even yet. For part of his reasoning, Alito focused on the shadow docket itself. He wrote that the court has previously been criticized for shadow docket decision-making and specifically called out three female justices, Kagan, Sotomayor, and Barrett, citing rulings in which they previously objected to using the shadow docket. Alito, who has defended the court against complaints about the shadow docket in the past, added, "I did not agree with these criticisms at the time, but if they were warranted in the cases in which they were made, they are emphatically true here." There's something personal about Alito. There's something personal about the tone of Alito's opinion, Lemnu said, adding that it's notable that Thomas did not join him. Alito did not respond to Insider's request for comment via the Supreme Court's press email. I mean, calling out hypocrisy isn't. It can be, actually. Calling out hypocrisy can be personal. Alito did not respond to Insider's request for comment via the Supreme Press email. Lemonu said Alito has been stung in the past by accusations of abusing the By abusing the shadow docket, particularly on ruling he has made relating to abortion access and religious freedom case during the pandemic. I think he's trying to do a little theater here with, wait a minute, I thought you were against the use of shadow docket and changing things in this way. Oh, so the press is accusing Alito of theater here, and not Alito accusing them of theater. But Alito's comparison and accusation of hypocrisy may not be just. Of course, it wouldn't be justified in these guys' eyes, said Alito, and the conservative majority have faced criticism for using the shadow docket to disrupt the status quo, making drastic legal changes without transparency. Status quo does not mean good, though. Friday's ruling does the opposite. The use of the shadow docket here does not disrupting the status quo, it is preserving the status quo. Lemonu expanded. Of the abortion pill ruling, which simply allows the most common abortion medication to stay on the market. This is the kind of case that the shadow docket is for, to preserve the status quo so the case that frankly does not strike me as very meritorious can be resolved. Despite Alito appearing to call out Keegan, Sotomayor, and Barrett, there is no way of knowing for sure how any of the justices voted beyond the two who noted their dissent. Lemonu added, "It's not unusual for justices to call each other out in opinions, but said Alito's dissent was clearly reflective of the fact that he feels that he's been unfairly characterized." I mean, he might be. He's done a few good rulings in my eyes. I'd say that. Of course, there's always a political slant to these things. Huh. So on to the next issue. Amy Coney Barrett. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett asked questions during oral arguments in a religious rights case on Tuesday. The case involves a postal carrier who says he can't work on Sundays because of his religious beliefs. Barrett suggested that providing the request to religious accommodating could have a negative effect on other employees' morale. I don't remember court or justices being important to a case on whether or not morale is involved where religious exemptions are made. That'll be a story for another day. Supreme Court Associate Justice Coney Barrett presumed a line of questioning during oral argument in a religious rights case that may surprise some of her supporters and critics. The Supreme Court heard the case of a former mail carrier and evangelical Christian, Gerald Groff, who has argued that the United States Postal Service failed to provide him with adequate religious accommodations because his beliefs prevent him from working Sundays. Barrett, a Roman Catholic and a member of the court's conservative wing, is well known for her deeply held religious beliefs, which have sometimes proven controversial and even led calls for her to recuse herself from a case. Calls for her to. I missaid basically that. I read that as she recused herself. My bad. I need to correct that. However, during questions to Groff's attorney, Aaron Street, on Tuesday, Barrett appeared to agree with Justice Brett Kavanaugh that providing the religious accommodation Groff was seeking could be potentially damaging to other employees' morale and have a negative effect on the operations of a company making that accommodation. It's a weird argument, but fine, I guess. I mean, you might have many religious people in a workplace seeking the same accommodations for Sunday off or other kinds of accommodations, Barrett said on Tuesday, according to a transcript of oral arguments released by the court. And I guess it seems to me, as Justice Kavanaugh said, morale can be very important. It kind of seems to me that you're defining conduct of the business as the bottom line, like you want a dollar amount on it, she went on. So if you lose efficiency and you want to measure, like, well, we're not able to deliver as many Amazon packages, so it's costing us some of our contract. We're not as able to sell as many groceries, or we have to close early on Sundays because we can't cover it, and we're losing the sales on that part of the shift, the conservative justice said. Brett also pointed to things that might be very difficult to prove and put a dollar amount on, Employees aren't as productive because they're grumbling. They're not willing to go the extra mile, put their best foot forward. Those might be very difficult things to put a dollar amount on, or the dollar amount might be small. But why wouldn't they be things that would affect the conduct of the business, she asked. Barrett then had a back and forth with Street about the potential effects on morale and operations of the company making the kind of religious accommodation Groff was seeking. The justice appeared to be to question whether allowing a person not to work on Sundays because of their religious beliefs would place an unfair burden on their employer and their coworkers. If you're in the rural grocery store and two other employees have to pick up all the shifts, maybe that's not reasonable. Or does it always have to be measured in your view under the substantial or difficulty test? She asked. Shit. Heat only. Stewart responded that the employers had flexibility to select an accommodation that's not the religious employee's preferred accommodation. And as part of making that a reasonable accommodation, the employer can take into account the effect on the coworkers or take into account the effect of the business. Huh. I'm gonna rate that velocity maker. I think I'm finding something that I'm not a big fan of. And of course, that's what we had here, Street went on. This is not a get out of work free card for Mr. Groff. He's volunteered to work on Saturday. He volunteered to work on non-Sunday holidays. And it simply shifted around the shifts that individuals were working. Groff was a rural carrier associated with Pennsylvania and didn't work on Sundays. But in 2013, USPS contracted to deliver Amazon packages on Sundays. USPS made some efforts to accommodate Groff, such as changing around shifts or allowing him to come to work after religious services. He eventually left in 2019 and filed suit against USPS under Title 7, which prevents discrimination against employees based on their religion. It sounds like there wasn't much discrimination, I will say. If the facts are Groff didn't work Sundays, USPS made some efforts to accommodate Groff, such as changing around shifts or allowing him to come to work after religious services. I guess after religious services would... Yeah, because if you must keep the Sabbath, no working on Sunday at all. But he wasn't fired for this. A district judge ruled against Groff and the Third U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals upheld the decision in a 2-1 vote. Under Title VII, an employer must show that they made good faith efforts to provide reasonable accommodations for the employee, and they must show that providing that accommodation would place an undue hardship on the employer. Newsweek has reached out to Gerald Groff's attorney via email for comment. All right. I don't know what it's showing here, but it's a little fancy, I guess. I don't know about that. That's Coney Barrett's, I need to change the description because she didn't recuse herself. They're asking her to recuse herself. However, the surprise here is that Coney Barrett seemed to get into a little bit of an argument about religious exemptions in workplaces. Come on, load quicker. Come on. Harris on mass shootings. It's pitiful that Congress can't stand up to the NRA. Everything about Harris makes me want to read this in a Valley Girl voice, or her quotes in a Valley Girl voice. Because she is a stupid bitch. I hate her. Vice President Harris slammed Congress on Thursday for lacking the courage to stand up to the National Rifle Association and pass gun safety laws in the wake of several mass shootings. I just think that it's pitiful. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm fucking doing it. I just think that's pitiful that the people in the United States Congress do not have the courage to stand up for the gun lobby, stand up to the NRA, and say, "Look, I support the Second Amendment, but we need reasonable gun safety laws." I do not regret any of that. Harris said during an appearance on Jennifer Hudson's show, the vice president emphasized that the Second Amendment and safety laws are not at odds with each other. "We should not have to be presented with this false choice, which suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or want reasonable gun safety laws." Harrison told Hudson, "That's a false choice." Yeah, I don't regret doing this. This is actually fun. I see why Nick does it. Oh, Kermit the Frog here. It's probably not the best on recording. It is reasonable that we have a background checks because it is reasonable that you might want to know if someone has been found by a court to be dangerous to themselves or others before they can buy a gun. She continued, It's just reasonable. It's reasonable. It's reasonable to say that weapons of war have no place on the streets of America. Despite them not being weapons of war, but rather, just normal weaponry that anybody carries. It's common use! It's common use! Damn it. The calls for additional gun safety laws come as the United States continue to face an endless string of mass shootings. 4 people were killed and 32 were injured at a girl's Sweet 16 birthday party last weekend in Dadeville, Iowa. Earlier last week, an employer opened fire at a bank in Louisville, Kentucky, killing 5 people and injuring 8 more. Harris recently met with 2 Democratic lawmakers from Tennessee House Representatives who were expelled from the chambers. Oh, right. Fucking Justin and the other dude. For leading a protest, blah blah. Leading a shooting led 9 people dead. Or 6 people dead, left 3 9-year-olds and 3 staff members dead. Do not come. Do not come. I mean, if it creates an undue burden on the right to keep and bear arms, I think it should be seen as at odds with the right to keep and bear arms. Oh, that's right. I'm bringing the abortion standard here. Undue burden. That is not real. No way. That was a lot shorter than I thought it was gonna be. But I have every problem with the VP that's basically like, oh, gun laws, gun laws, gun laws. Harris should not be talking about laws when she violated the laws of fucking California. Or the Constitution, even, I would say. By withholding information, you know, exculpatory evidence that would have saved a man from death row until she was forced to do so. Remember, this bitch here, this fucking conniving cunt, said, or did, not provide exculpatory evidence for a man on death row until she was forced to give it. She does not care about the people. She only cares about her fucking career. This is a career move, not a I care about people move. We need to get rid of these people. We need to get rid of her. We need to get rid of the Democrats. Not all of them. There's a good one in there, I bet. We need to get rid of Biden. Everyone who is willing to violate our Second Amendment rights, as it was written in the Constitution, should be removed from office. In a way that sends a message to everybody else in office to say, hey, if you do this, you will be punished. It does not need to be violent, but it needs to be unpleasant. Following that, of course, is a gun story. Gun store running out of almost everything as assault weapon ban looms. Of course, this is, by its face, unconstitutional. Shall not be infringed, but whatever. Customers stripped entire Tacoma, Washington. Customers stripped entire sections of walls at surplus ammo and arms bare this week, flocking to the Tacoma gun store for rifles that are about to become illegal in the Washington state. We're running out of almost everything, store manager Bruce Smith said. As Smith was speaking with Fox News Wednesday, one of his employees leaned over the counter and delivered an update. House Bill 1214 had officially passed. House Bill 1240 bans so-called assault weapons, primarily semi-automatic rifles, with exceptions for law enforcement and military. The bill passed at the Senate earlier this month. It was amended and had to be sent back to the House, where lawmakers approved the changes. The bill contains emergency clauses so that it can take effect immediately upon Governor Jay Inslee's signature. There's going to be a ban on all AR-style guns and anything that attaches to those guns, Smith said. He estimated sales have doubled in the past month, with customers primarily focusing on rifles like the AR-15 kits and replacement parts. People are focusing on what they won't be able to get. The bill bans more than 60 specific firearms, most of them semi-automatic long guns, semi-automatic pistols, and shotguns with certain features outlined in the bill may also be banned, but the specific guns are not listed. Woman learns to shoot AR-15 rifle with, I guess, long scope. She's got good trigger discipline. I like it. She's probably kneeling to get a feel for the bracing. It looks like she's on a table. Smith said semi-automatic rifles made up a large portion of surplus ammo and arms stock. The main part of our sales is going to be the AR style. It's going to be in the AR style or a bunch of the weapons that they're banning, he said. A significant amount of our inventory is not going to be allowed to be sold. Oh, this would be rife for injunctive relief for these people. This is made for Supreme Court rulings. Washington will become the 10th state to adopt a ban on so-called assault weapons. Smith said the ban will put his business out of work. That will close, he said, trying to transition to completely different things that you're selling and what you're known for, and then competing with big box companies that have 60,000 square feet of retail space that is just a piece of it. You know, that's going to be very difficult. The future is unclear for surplus ammo and arms. What's next is a good question, Smith said. We're still trying to figure that out ourselves. Sue the government. Do it right now. Smith needs to sue the government in this case, or make an action to get injunctive relief that would restrict the access of this bill. It's not proper. You can't just start reeling back on amendment rights without revoking the amendment. Here's a solution for everybody in Congress. Every state that wants to get rid of guns, get rid of the Second Amendment. Make a constitutional amendment, you rotting fucking faggots. Well, if that hurts my channel, that hurts my channel. Mind you, that wasn't aimed at any particular person. That was not a jab at anybody's characteristics traits. That's just an insult aimed at Congress. Congress as a whole and not anybody in particular. There we go. And in the case that I was following earlier and has found a good conclusion, thankfully, though it should not have come to this point, a CPS returns baby girl to North Texas parents after dispute over jaundice treatment. The DeSoto newborn taken from her parents by a CPS 2 weeks ago in a dispute over treatment for jaundice has been returned to her family on the eve of a court hearing that was to determine next steps in this case. The IVS Center, a Dallas-based birth and reproductive justice organization that has been representing Tamisha and Rodney Jackson, says that the 1-month-old Mila Jackson is being released back to her parents ahead of the schedule hearing that was set for 1:30 p.m. Thursday, April 20th. Public pressure and illuminating violations of our most fundamental rights works, said Marcia Jones, executive officer of the IVS Center. Mila is finally on her way back where she belongs, but this should never have happened in the first place, she said. I will give you a quick rundown of the story. The article will probably do that anyway. But Mila Jackson was taken from her parents after CPS was called by a doctor who basically was a petty little Karen about the whether or not Mila Jackson's parents, Tamisha and Rodney Jackson, were going to give her the right lights for the treatment for her jaundice. For, I'm guessing, jaundice and for infants with jaundice, the treatment is phototherapy. With a certain kind of light, you can break down the bilirubin inside the blood. I believe that's how it works. This is not medical advice. It's just me trying to guesstimate. The light can break down the bilirubin in the blood and prevent the buildup of jaundice by basically radiating it with light or burning it. Tamisha and Rodney Jackson had a midwife that was certified for these kinds of treatments that was going to be able to do it. And apparently because the parents did not answer calls that came over the course of a night, the doctor called CPS using the wrong mother's name and history to get these parents' baby taken from them. So Tamisha Jackson didn't even have her child removed because Tamisha Jackson did anything wrong. She had her child removed because some other mother did something wrong with Mila Jackson. A petty piece of shit. Mila was born at the Jackson home on March 2021, the 21st of March. 3 days later, they took the infant for a well child checkup at their Baylor Scott and White pediatrician. The parents say the nurse practitioner who examined Mila gave them a clean bill of health. But later that day, Tamisha Jackson said she began receiving calls from Baylor Scott and White, Dr. Adnan Bhatt. The doctor said Mila had jaundice with dangerously high levels of bilirubin, which is a yellowish substance made during the body's normal process of breaking down old red blood cells. Dr. Bott suggested that the parents bring Mila to the hospital for phototherapy, a standard jaundice treatment. In his letter to CPS, Dr. Bott stated, "I filed a case report with CPS after trying 10 attempts to appeal to the parents through phone calls, text messages, and leaving voicemails, as they did not pick up the phone. Parents are very loving and they care dearly about their child, or their baby," the doctor wrote. "Their distrust for medical care and guidance has led them to making the decision for their baby to refuse a simple treatment that can prevent brain damage." This is a lie, he states. He lies here. Dr. Bott is a lying liar who tells lies. He mischaracterizes to an official agency that has the authority to take away a child if they so deem. He lies here because they indicated not that they didn't want to, they refused to treat the thing. It's that they're going to treat it, but at home. "I authorize the support of CPS to help get this baby the care that was medically necessary and needed," the letter continued. CPS agreed. In its own statement, it wrote, due to the parents being unwilling to discuss the danger and potential consequences of this condition, it is necessary for the department to intervene. A CPS investigator and court documents detailed repeated attempts on March 25th to contact Rodney Jackson at the family's home with DeSoto's police department support. The CPS investigator also said DeSoto ambulance and DeSoto fire trucks also arrived at the home. Dallas County constables armed with a court order helped CPS take Mila from the home on March 22nd. "Unlawfully, they entered my home to take my baby away from me," Tamisha Jackson said, as she fought back tears at a Thursday, April 6th news conference held at the Afia Center in Dallas. The parents said they were allowed to see see their newborn once a week for 2 hours in supervised visit at CPS office. But the Jacksons and their legal team also pointed out the obvious problem with the affidavit filed with the courts that allowed CPS to take Mila. The affidavit used to justify CPS taking custody of the child listed the wrong mom, a mom with a completely different name and a completely different criminal history of child neglect. Tamisha Jackson, who has no criminal record, is not even listed as the child's mother on the affidavit. When we received a report that alleges abuse or neglect of a child by a parent, guardian, or persons responsible for child's care, we are required by legislature to investigate, a CPS spokesperson told WFAA. If the allegations is medical neglect, we rely on expert opinions of medical professionals, often pediatricians. At the outset of any investigation, we make a concerted effort to speak with families directly to verify their personal information, and we attempt to do so in this case. The error included in the affidavit was corrected as soon as we became aware of the mistake, CPS said. "We're relieved that the Jackson family will be reunited, but that does not undo the harm," Pregnancy Justice Staff Attorney Emma Roth said. "Time and again in our work, we see that child welfare system weaponized to police pregnancy and separate families after delivery. The Jacksons' ordeal shows the trauma of the hospital to CPS pipeline, which terrorizes black families. This should never have happened, and we're overjoyed Mila is where she belongs." I want to say that this also terrorizes normal people, or rather, not normal people. Everyone, not just black families. It's not used at the pregnancy stage. It's used at basically divorce stages, where it's weaponized against, sing, be, becoming single fathers, basically. A spokesperson for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Service says WFAA that DFPS recommended dismissal of this case to the Assistant District Attorney. A motion for non-suit was filed Thursday. As for what happens next, Marsha Jones with the Lafayette Center says the Jackson family won't get justice until everybody involved in Mila's removal from her home is held accountable. Yes. Fuck Baylor Scott White. Fuck them right in the ass. They're such pieces of shit. I've never seen such little bitches, and I'm saying this on a personal level, mostly because having to clean up after them at a location that I work at my normal job, the fact that they're willing to throw trash in a... Okay, my personal grievance is petty. But I compound it with my opinions that I've gotten here with Dr. Bott basically being a piece of fucking trash, willing to lie to the officials of CPS to get a child removed from her family because he didn't think that they were going to use the right lights for the treatment. You see, what this states here is not the full idea. So if this is the official, if the Dr. Bott statement about distrust of the family of the treatment is the official reason, it is a full-on lie, because their distrust for medical care and guidance has led them to make a decision for the baby to refuse simple treatment. So that's what he wrote, but if he did write this, they didn't include the fact that he said this is an ABC Channel 8 thing issue. Because he later wrote that he was worried that they were not going to use the right lights for the procedure, and that's why he called CPS, because he was very petty and concerned overly about whether or not it was going to be done right. In which case, I think that the certified midwife in Texas, because midwives in Texas are required to be certified before midwifing at all, would know the proper treatment of light for the baby in this case. I'll read that story later. It's not really important, but I'm curious. So Dr. Adnan Bott is a lying liar, and CPS is a fuck. Yes. Before we get into that, though, we should probably get into this. Oh, come on, don't start crashing on me now. Oh, wait. Just real quick, before something pops up that might not need to be popped up. Okay. Just making sure. So if you're ever interested in getting some tea, the tea that I drink regularly on stream, buy this cup, and buy this awesome new filter that I've got. So it's a strainer that sits in the actual lid compartment, and it fills in the water. So the water is the tea is pre-made, and I do not need to worry about whether or not I'm going to have to remember. So the process before I used to do that, I'd have to heat the water, pour it into a little strainer thing about this tall, and wait for 3 minutes or so, typically for this type of tea, Iro's Legacy, and then put it on top of the cup after a certain amount of time. This little machine right here does all of that entirely without any kind of you could put it on and forget about it, and you'd be fine because the tea will not get old. It will not get overbrewed. It has the perfect brew time because it follows the 5 different types of tea, and it has made my streaming experience a little easier. I have in fact forgotten about the tea because of it. It's probably why I haven't been drinking as much of it, because it makes my tea experience smoother. However, if you're looking to get something like that, or any of the stuff that I had before, or just the awesome tea that I've had this lately, let me find my demonstration. Iro's Legacy, because that is a fantastic tea. I also got the green matcha, which I would show, but it's powdery and very, very prone to being disturbed by airflow, so I'm not going to do that. However, it is a fantastic tea. The matcha is great. It's like, what's it? What am I thinking? Hot cocoa. It's a suspension, so it just sits in water and then you stir it in, and it tastes great. If you're looking to get any of the tea, any of the thing that I'm offering you, code Layman at checkout for 10% off. 10% off of everything. See, this is the infuser that I set on the cup, and this is the kettle that I used before. The Velocity Maker is basically the kettle with the strainer all in one. You can get the Sebastian's Morning Earl Grey with vanilla cream. It tastes great. My personal favorite was the Magic Roll Venus, which I actually plan on getting. I think I'll do it right now. Of course, you can also get Tea of the Month, which I have no idea what it is. I don't think he says what the tea of the month is, but it could be any of the above: the green tea, the white tea, the Earl Grey, or the oolong, black, and herbal, and rooibos. Rooibos. I'll need to ask him how that's pronounced, or find the thing to say it. You can also get sample packs if you don't know if you like it or not. A sample pack of the rooibos or herbal tea. You can get one of each. You'll get 5 different types, one of each different type. Honeybush hazelnut, caramelized pear, lullaby song, lustful licorice, and urava tea. I've written a review for this website as well, actually. All that you want, tea, merchandise, and teaware can be found here at the Dragon's Treasure. Remember to use code Layman for 10% off, and you won't regret the purchase, I promise you. I have not since the day I got it, and this was mostly an impulse buy I did like a year ago, and it has been well worth the investment. I didn't drink it because I didn't drink it up until lately because I had no room on the desk, and I was a little worried about how to set up a kettle basically on my desk, a heating element with my electronics nearby. And also I was trying to get through a bunch of like store-bought green tea, which is in like a pack. But I threw it away after a while and started drinking this. It's well worth the investment. It's some seriously good tea. It's got jasmine flavoring in it. And I think that's what I've been getting used to, because I drank green tea from like a sushi place last week, or this week, and it was it's alright. But it wasn't this tea. Hold on, I gotta figure something out. I'm gonna probably do a video review of the Velocity kettle for the T-Man, so he knows kind of what to deal with it, I'm guessing. He sells it, and it's great. It's very convenient. However, with that convenience comes a particular cost. You see, the inside cage for the tea itself is porous, but it's not fine pour. It's like little holes. See, the strainer had like this mesh on the bottom, which basically allowed it to go through, but leave none of the tea, but get none of the tea leaves in the tea. This one actually does a little bit, so you get a little grain at the end of your drink whenever you're done with drinking it. It's not bad. It's a little, if you're not used to it, it's a little off-putting, but I have no regrets with it. Though I might improvise an inside kettle thing or inside the strainer, like a mesh that'll basically do what the strainer does, and that could fix that issue easily. But yeah, with that, I'm done with the ad read. It might not reach an hour, unfortunately. I've been having problems lately with finding topics. However, the New York... I know. Wait, I'm not even halfway done with my topics. I have a few left. I just said CPS and more. I just thought about what I had in the title. North Carolina man accused of shooting her parents after ball rolled into yard appears in court after arrest in Tampa. So this man shot parents in North Carolina and apparently fled to fucking Florida. A man turned himself into Hillsborough County authorities after 48 hours search following a shooting incident in Gaston County, North Carolina, which is just outside of Charlotte. Robert Louis Singletary, 24, made an appearance in front of a Hillsborough County judge Friday morning. Singletary appeared in a green vest that is often used when inmates indicate they may harm themselves. 2 hospitalized in shooting in Brandon. Singletary only spoke one word when the court asked him if he would sign a document that allows him to be extradited to North Carolina. Singletary's reply was indeed. Gaston County police are investigating a shooting that happened Tuesday evening outside of his home. Family members say Singletary became enraged when a child's basketball rolled into his yard. He is accused of shooting Jamie White, his 6-year-old daughter, Kinsley, and the child's mother, Ashley Hildebrand. I hate my sense of humor in this. If you're not sure as to why I'm chuckling a little at this, a game I played, not recently, but a game I played, Final Fantasy XIV, has a character named Hildebrand. God damn it. Gaston County police say he also shot another man but missed. As a result, he's facing 4 counts of attempted first-degree murder with assault with deadly weapon and possession of a firearm. Oh no. Oh no. White was the most serious injured in... Which one? Which White? Apparently Jamie White and Kinsley White. White was the most injured in the incident. News release said. Police says he is in serious condition. His daughter suffered shrapnel wounds to her face. Oh, thank God she fucking survived. Singletary would now be transported back to North Carolina to face charges. It is unclear why he drove to the Tampa area, to surrender to authorities. Hopefully Jamie White will make a resounding recovery from this. Jamie White. Let's see if there's a GoFundMe. Oh! Okay. Oh ho ho! I'm gonna, hold up. I gotta go to camera view because I'm gonna go to Twitter for a moment. I have a very, very certain question for a potentially serious person. We'll have to see about that. Sorry, this whole thing fucking irritates the hell out of me so bad. And someone was told not to reply to a tweet I had, where I asked basically, I asked, what was it? One of the children of King, if that the prosecutor seeking justice against that one shooting of Ralph, if justice in that case would have been not seeking charges, would that be acceptable? And someone was like, hey, accusing me of attention seeking, and it's like, well, I mean, it's still a question. Hold up real quick, just for a second. I gotta adjust my pants, because holy shit, it's riding up on me. I need to get a better chair for this. That might be my next investment, if not a gun, because I live in Texas. It's my constitutional right. So Johnny Depp, and look what happened to him. That was not the tweet I wanted to make at the Brown or at King. Okay, I just need to go find the tweet. Hey, Remington, Chandler Remy, if you're watching this at any point, the joke about yesterday, the tweet about the what's it? my response to your tweet about questioning why we aren't at the bar with you, that was a mostly joke about going to the bar with you to drink and then going back to work would not work well for me. I'm alright, don't worry. If you see this, believe me, that was just a joke. I did not mean for that to be ominous in any way. It was just, I thought it would be a little funny. It turned out, it didn't turn out that way. Damn it. Did I get blocked by that guy? Z. Oh, is that really what happened? Hold on, I gotta find this out real quick. Just a teensy moment. Sorry for the delays. This is a personal thing that I want to figure out. I kind of want to do a stream with legal mindset. If that's something he would even do. I'll get in contact with him, see if that is something. Yeah, so this guy, Z Nagger here, of course. So he made these tweets. Wait, no, you can't see him. My bad. So I made a tweet about that whole if mere speculation, but what if bringing no charges is the appropriate charge? Will there be violence in the street? And I was told by this guy named Z Nagger with 2 R's to don't respond to people like me. I'm looking for attention, and that I'm attention seeking. It's like, well, no, not really. I'm just I'm putting it out there. It's a speculative idea. No, that wasn't. The guy said goodbye. Sorry, I'm gonna get back to it. That was my side tangent because I was curious. Replies. Oh yeah, send them out Mike Dunford as well. If you don't know him, don't worry. Trying to find the tweet real quick. Sorry guys, sorry. If I can't find it, it's whatever. And I'll get back to it. Yeah, I can't find it in a reasonable amount of time. I'll make the tweet later. Alright, back to the show. Sorry for the delays. Alright. Kind of want to wrap the show up pretty soon because I gotta go make some rice. It's only a 30-minute affair, but still. And cook some lean beef. I've been on a diet lately. Here we are. Debt ceiling debate is about more than debt. Republicans' opening bid to avert economic catastrophe by raising the national's borrowing limit focuses more on energy policy than reducing debt. Speaker Kevin McCarthy of California has repeatedly said that he and his fellow House Republicans are refusing to raise the nation's borrowing limit and risk economic catastrophe to force a reckoning on America's $31 trillion national debt. Without exaggerating, America's debt is a ticking time bomb that will detonate unless we take serious, reasonable, responsible action, he said this week. But the bill Mr. McCarthy introduced on Wednesday would only modestly change the national's debt trajectory. It also carries a second big objective that has little to do with the debt: undercutting President Biden's climate and clean energy agenda, increasing American production of fossil fuels. The legislation, which Republicans plan to vote on next week, is... Okay, it's a lengthy-ish story. The legislation, which is meant to force Biden to negotiate over raising the debt limit, which is currently capped at $31.4 trillion, unless the cap is lifted. The federal government, which borrows huge sums of money to pay its bills, is expected to run out of cash as early as June. The House Committee said on Friday that we will meet on Tuesday to consider the bill and possibly advance it to the floor. More than half the 320 pages of legislative text are a rehash of the energy bill that the Republicans passed this year and that aimed to speed up leasing and permitting for oil and gas drilling. Republicans claim the bill would boost economic growth and bring in more revenue for the federal government, though the Congressional Budget Office projected it would slightly lose revenue. The Republican plan also gives priority to removing clean energy incentives that were included in Biden's signature climate, health, and tax law. The legislation known as the Inflation Reduction Act, including tax credits and other provisions meant to encourage electric vehicle sales, advanced battery production, utility upgrades, and variety of energy efficiency efforts. The proposal does include provisions that would meaningfully reduce government spending and deficits, most notably by limiting total growth in certain types of federal spending from 2022 levels. The bill would claw back some of the unspent COVID relief money and impose new work requirements that could reduce federal spending on Medicaid and food assistance. It would block Mr. Biden's... It's weird that they don't do senator and governors and presidents. Mr. Biden's proposal to forgive hundreds of billions of dollars in student loan debt and related plans to reduce loan payments for low-income college graduates. As a result, it would reduce deficits by as much as $4.5 trillion over those 10 years, and according to calculations by the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget in Washington, the actual number could be much smaller. Lawmakers could vote in the future to ignore spending caps as they have in the past. Even if the entire estimate savings from the plan came to pass, it would still leave the nation a decade from now with a total debt that was larger than the annual output of the economy, a level that McCarthy and other Republicans have frequently labeled as a crisis. The Republican plan is estimated to reduce the ratio known as the debt to GDP. In 2033, about 9% points if fully enacted. By contrast, Biden's last budget raised trillions of dollars in new taxes from corporations and high earners, and includes new spending on child care and education, and would reduce the ratio by about 6% points. By about 9 and 6%. Those reductions are a far cry from Republicans' promises after they won control of the House in November to balance the budget in 10 years. That lowering of ambitions is partly the product of Republicans leaders ruling out any cuts to fast rising costs of Social Security or Medicare, bowing to an onslaught of political attacks from Biden. The lower ambitions are also the result of party leaders' unwillingness or inability to repeal most of the new spending programs Biden signed into law over the first 2 years of his presidency, often with bipartisan support. At the New York Stock Exchange on Monday, McCarthy accused the president and his party of already adding $6 trillion to our national debt burden, ignoring the bipartisan support enjoyed by most of the spending Biden has signed into law. The speaker would effectively roll back one of... Hold on, wait, realized something. I forgot to re-up the chat. Here. Danny, yo, what's up? Hey, bud, what are you doing? Sorry, it's, didn't see the chat. Shuffling to see what you're doing. Howdy. Admiral Nelson, sorry, I had all the chats covered up. That is my bad. Howdy, how are you doing today? Everybody send you a little rumble, otherwise check. I'm having a good day. I'm a little more energized. I've been getting used to my new diet. It's, I'm eating rice and chicken, but I'm eating lean meats and rice basically day in and day out, and filling in the rest of the calories as I can. It was a little rough at the start. I basically wanted to die, but now I'm feeling alright. It's pretty good. No, you're good. I realized I forgot to look at chats while reading this, because I was thinking like, man, not a whole lot of movement. Thank you, Danny, for the $2. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, Admiral Nelson. Nice to see you in chat. For me, I've been basically working. My new portion of work has been pretty easy for me so far. It's been pretty manageable, and I'm liking it. But other than that, it's mostly not a whole lot's been happening. Just, you know, trying to make the streaming thing work. I've got Sony Vegas Pro now, a editing software, so I'm gonna start making short form videos that I'll be uploading to Rumble and YouTube respectively. And with that, hopefully I'll be able to make some... I want to do some singing. So I'm going to be doing that for locals content whenever I get around to it. I got an idea for it. So this mic can actually adjust in a way that I can use it while standing up without having to completely move everything. So that's what I'll be doing, hopefully. But yeah, with all that, thank you for the rumble rant, Danny. Nice seeing you. Nice seeing you, Admiral Nelson. I'm gonna get back to it. I just realized I forgot to look at the chat. So the speaker's plan would effectively roll back one big bipartisan spending bill, which President Biden signed at the end of 2022, to fund the government through this year. But the other big drivers of debt approved under Biden's that are not singled out for repeal in the Republican bill include trillions in new spending on semiconductors, manufacturing, healthcare for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits, and upgrades to critical infrastructure like bridges, water pipes, and broadband. Some of that spending could potentially be reduced by congressional appropriators working under the proposed spending caps, but much of it is exempted from the cap or already out the door. Most of the 1.9 trillion economic aid plan President Biden signed in March 2021, which Republicans blame for fueling high inflation, is already spent as well. The plan squarely targets the climate, health, and tax bill that Democrats passed along party lines last summer. By cutting that bill's energy subsidies, it would also rescind additional enforcement dollars that the law sent to the Internal Revenue Services to crack down on wealthy tax cheats. The Congressional Budget Office says the change would cost the government about $100 billion in tax revenue. Taken together, those efforts reduce deficit by a bit over $100 billion, suggesting debt levels are not the primary consideration in targeting those provisions. The bill's next 200 pages show what actually is a sustained push to tilt federal support away from low emissions energy and further towards fossil fuel, including mandating new oil and gas leasing on federal lands and reducing barriers to the construction of new pipelines. Republicans say those efforts would save consumers money by reducing gasoline and heating costs. Democrats say they would halt progress on Biden's efforts to galvanize domestic manufacturing growth and fight. They would halt progress on Biden's efforts to galvanize domestic manufacturing growth and fight climate change. I need to find a good reading cadence. The plan would cost Americans trillions in climate harm, and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, the Democrat chairman of Budget Committee, and it would shrink our economic by disinvesting in the technologies of tomorrow. Republicans have positioned their fossil fuel efforts as a solution to a supposed production crisis in the United States. I spent the last 2 years working on the other side of the aisle, watching them systematically take this country apart when it comes to our natural resources. Representative Jerry Carl of Alabama said last month before voting to pass energy bill now embedded in the debt ceiling. Government statistics show a rosier picture of the industry. Oil products in the United States has nearly returned to record highs under Biden administration. The Energy Department projects it will smash records next year by output increases from Texas and New Mexico. Natural gas production has never been higher. White House officials warn that Republicans are risking the catastrophic default with their demands attached to rising the borrowing cap. The way to have real negotiations on the budget is for House Republicans to take threats of default when it comes to the economy and what it could potentially do to the economy off the table. Karine Jean-Pierre, the random The bitch at the White House, press secretary told reporters on Thursday. Not that she would have any knowledge of what to do in this situation. Mr. McCarthy has defended his entire set of demands as a complete package to reorient economic policy, but he mentioned energy only in passing in his speech to Wall Street. The issue he called a crisis and the basis he cited for refusing to raise the borrowing limit without conditions was fiscal policy and debt. Debt limit negotiations, he said, are an opportunity to examine our nation's finances. Jim Teckersley is a White House correspondent with focus on has written for more than decades. Oh, okay. So the New York Times article here was written by a White House correspondent. So the person who's writing this is basically in league with this person here. Who would have fucking thunk? It got cool. Oh shit. Heat's not on. Manhattan DA drops appeal after federal judge rules Jim Jordan can subpoena ex-prosecutor. A statement from Manhattan DA's office says the parties have come to an agreement for testimony from Mark Pomerantz. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg dropped an appeal he filed after a federal judge ruled that the ex-prosecutor and his office can be subpoenaed by House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio. Bragg dropped the appeal Friday after the parties came to an agreement on a testimony from former prosecutor Mark Pomerantz to the House Judiciary Committee. The agreement stipulates that a lawyer from Bragg's office will be present at the testimony who can make objections. I mean, even if Bragg's attorney could make objections, it's not like what's going to be objected to here? They're showing he knows too much. He can't say this. It's not like Bragg's could have any place to properly object. He's not the lawyer representing Pomerantz. Our successful stay of the subpoena blocked the immediate deposition and afforded us necessary time to coordinate with the House Judiciary Committee on an agreement to protect the District Attorney's privileges and interests. We are also pleased with this resolution, which ensures that any questioning of our former employee will take place in the presence of our General Counsel on a reasonable agreed-upon time frame. We are gratified that the Second Court's ruling provided us with the opportunity to successfully resolve this dispute, Manhattan's DA spokesperson said in a testament. Someone should lock out that General Counsel DA in the process and make sure he doesn't have a say. Honestly. Fuck the agreements. Fuck the DA of Manhattan. A spokesperson for Jordan said that Pomerantz's deposition will take place on May 12th. This evening, the Manhattan District Attorney Office withdrew its appeal in Bragg versus Jordan. Mr. Pomerantz's deposition will go forward on May 12th, and we look forward to his appearance, Jordan's spokesperson said. U.S. District Judge Mary K. Viscosil rejected Bragg's request Wednesday, asking for a temporary restraining order and injunction after Jordan's issued a subpoena to Pomerantz. Bragg immediately appealed the ruling Wednesday and wanted a stay of the ruling. The Manhattan DA accused Jordan in a federal lawsuit that he is trying to intimidate him because of the prosecution of former President Donald Trump. In the ruling, Vasquilis, said that the subpoena is valid. In our federalist system, elected state and federal actors sometimes engage in political dogfights, he said. Bragg's complains about political interference in the local Danny case, but Bragg's does not operate outside of the political arena. Bragg's is presumptively acting in good faith. That said, he is an elected prosecutor in New York County with constituents, some of whom wish to see Bragg wield the force of law against the former president and a current candidate for the Republican presidential nomination, the judge continued. In the ruling, judge wrote that both sides should speak with one another to reach a mutual agreement and compromise regarding how the deposition of Pomerantz will proceed. Trump was indicted on March 30th as a part of a years-long investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for hush money payments. He pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. While falsifying records is typically considered a misdemeanor, it rises to a felony when a defendant's intent to defraud includes intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. And this lies the problem with this whole ordeal. There is no official statement on what the criminal act he was trying to hide was. Braggs is basically hiding under a veil of prosecutorial power to indict Trump, and he did before the statutes ran out. So yeah, that's the fun stuff that's been happening today. I have luckily been able to stream for an hour and a half, which is more than I was able to do the other day. Took about a few topics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh wait. Fort Worth files protest to block Varsity Tavern from getting... Okay, we'll cover this real quick. It shouldn't be that long. It's like... Yeah, it's not very long. It's what I wanted to do this, I just forgot about it. Alright, so Varsity Tavern, Fort Worth. Protests to block Varsity Tavern from getting new liquor license and reopening. I wonder what they're mad about with this place. Varsity closed at the beginning of this year and has plans to reopen as a country-themed tequila ranch. The city says the bar created crime, noise, and traffic. Oh. Crime, noise, and traffic. The city of Fort Worth is attempting to block popular bar Varsity Tavern from reopening under new name in Fort Worth's West 7th neighborhood. The city filed a protest late Wednesday with the Texas Alcohol and Beverage Commission asking the agency to not provide a new permit to the bar, which is attempting to reopen under the name Tequila Ranch. It drains an enormous amount of our police department resources that could be and should be used in neighborhoods to keep our residents safe, said Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck said. The bar, which had closed in January, falls in Beck's district. She said after meeting with its owner, she decided that the new concept would hurt the neighborhood. What became abundantly clear was that it was going to be the Varsity Tavern and Cowboy and cowboy boots. The TABC says Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission says the bar had 6 violations in the last 2 years. The city's protests list traffic, crime, and roughly three bars and neighborhoods as reasons to block it. When you have that many inebriated people in such a small area, it attracts a certain level of chaos, Beck said. The bar also faced complaints its dress code was discriminatory. It seemed to be their tool in keeping the chaos down was discriminatory practices, and we need folks to have better toolboxes to do businesses in Fort Worth. The cultural district has a lot going on, Dustin Van Orn, a board member of the Cultural District Alliance, said. There's a lot of opportunities for residential living. Restaurants are moving back. Van Orn was optimistic the property could be part of the neighborhood's redevelopment happening in the area. He says Varsity's owners weren't collaborative with other businesses. I think there are certain bars that may not be the best fit for the neighborhood, he said. Varsity owner could not be reached for comment Thursday. We don't want to run every bar out from the West 7th area, Beck said, but we do want to make sure that we have the right partners operating in the city of Fort Worth. Texas Alcohol Bureau Commission will now review the protest. If it advances, the administrative judges will hear from both sides to make a ruling. A permit won't be issued while the protest is under review. These motherfuckers. So the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission add that Varsity's permit is still valid through the end of October. Beck and Van Orn both want the business that helps fuel future growth. The more participants we have from businesses, the better the neighborhood will be. Participants of what? The more participants we have from participation we have from businesses, the better the neighborhood will be. We'll all benefit from it. Fuck everybody else. Who cares? They have the money, they have the place. They should be able to do the business there. Dustin Van Orn, Cultural District Alliance. Cultural District Alliance. It probably didn't register all of my keystrokes here. What's it? Cultural. Fuck. District Cultural Alliance? Cultural District Alliance. Cultural District Alliance. Fort Worth. All of these fucks is the only organization dedicated solely to the preservation and promotion of our city's unique and diverse cultural district. The support of our members dedicated. Contact, or rather, the Alliance members. Board of Directors. Is he a spokesperson? Van Orn. Modern Art Museum. Dustin Van Orn. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to look at chat for a moment. I gotta type real quick email. The more participation we have from businesses. Oh, fuck. All of my shit just crashed, I think. Well, not all of it. Just my opera from... That's not for this official stuff. Damn it, I hate it when it crashes like that. How you guys doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Compose to this group. Subject Varsi's Tavern. What are they gonna call it now? Tequila Ranch? I read in an article relating to the denial of the permit to the liquor license denial or protest to the business in the article. I was curious about a mention at the end of the article relating to participation from the businesses. What participation is mentioned? Being involved with the Cultural District Alliance? Is the CDA and HOA of some kind? I'm confused. Just finding out about this. Happy to hear. Jacob. Okay, that's sent. Yeah, I'll probably be wrapping up pretty soon because I need to go make some rice and food. Here we are, back at it. Daniel. Alright, and so before we wrap up the show, because that is actually the last of my topics. Whoo! A couple things to round off. I'm gonna go ahead and go over here, display it one last time for everybody. Code Layman for 10% off at Dragon's Treasure. It'll load in a moment. Code Layman will get you 10% off of everything from tea-wear to tea to the merchandise. Merchandise is basically just a shirt. Dragon, or the Tea Man, is trying to get more merchandise and whatnot. He's trying to get a tea maker that'll expedite his business. You know it's not warm whenever you can put your hand on it. Heat only. Why does it? I guess it doesn't put it back on whenever you put it back. Damn it. Yeah. That velocity maker, or this thing that I have, is very convenient. It stops the delays in streaming because it basically heats it up and I can get going. Where the kettle, or this kettle and the strainer for two functions at different times. This one would take a little bit, but this one, velocity, does it all in one go, and it's very convenient. Remember, 10% off of with Code Layman at checkout will get you discounts on your tea. It's very good, I promise you. I have not stopped drinking this tea since I gotten it. And I'm going to order more whenever I end the stream, actually, because that's how much I want it. I'm going to probably get like a 50 gram pack plus an extra 10. Let's see. Other merchandise, tea. It's a teaware, I believe. Yeah, these empty tea tins. So I'm going to probably get one more of these and then one more of... Because my whole plan is to set up like an array of like 6 to 7 of these little tins. Have like a little shelf thing right here. It's about this low, but it'll display about this high. That will display for you guys the T10s that'll have like written on a label the 5 different types that I'll have collected, so I can just kind of swap back and forth between. Also kind of have plans for this thing. I kind of want to like upgrade my setup a little bit so that way it looks a little more fancy and extravagant. I think I'm going to plan on keeping like that area the same. Maybe get like a swing out thing that it can display everything on the wall. I don't know, I got big plans. Just for personal investments and setups. Of course, this white one, as it says here. So that's a 4 ounce, the black one. And this 8 ounce one is the white one. So this is a 4 ounce, so this is an 8 ounce. Which sucks. I want the black one to be bigger because I like the color black more. Yeah, that's my personal investments and ideas for that. But yeah, once again, thank you for everybody who came to watch. Thank you for anybody who will come to watch on the replay. Thank you for everybody who came in to watch and then left. If I had to do something, remember code 10% off with code Layman at checkout. I started going into my ending or my outro, but I'm not actually done yet. I actually have a couple things I want to say. So with that, I'm going to go back to the camera, get off this webpage, because it is bright. I'm getting used to my new diet. My new diet is rice and a kind of protein. I think I'm going to do more protein today, because I need to round up how much calories I'm going to need in the day. I've been reaching a calorie deficit lately, but it's not because I've been working out or reducing how much or getting more into motion. It's just because I've not been eating as much in some areas, which I need to start getting that fixed. Where the hell did my phone go? I got these little protein bars to help figure out, to fill in the gap, but I'm probably going to do more protein. Oh, there it is. I set everything on top of my phone. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I've lost like 10 pounds so far. I'm 10 pounds lighter. I was like 305 whenever I weighed myself last week to kind of get the start of it. And now I'm like 205 or 295, 296 or 294, around that area. So I'm very happy that I'm getting to that range. I'm hoping to burn like 100 pounds by August. I plan on going to an event called Anime Matsuri, which I'll be streaming there. It'll be completely divorced from my normal topics, but hopefully it'll be just as fun and just as fun. And I'll try to find you guys topics for tomorrow. If not, I will definitely go back to the Fair Tax Act reading. Someone hit me up for potential, what's it? for potential collaboration. Hopefully that'll be fun. We'll see about that. I'll try to find the story for you guys tomorrow, though. So, yeah. Thank you for everybody who came to watch. Live. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Admiral Nelson. I can only say thank you if I know that you arrived in person. Thank you to anybody else personally who came to watch later, who came to watch before and then left because I had something to do. I greatly appreciate the views. I appreciate the support, especially from you, Danny. Elijah Fire, you're not here. Damn it. My biggest supporter so far. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll try to get my work done tonight as quickly as possible. If not, it'll be a rough tomorrow. With that, thank you very much. Code Layman at checkout with Dragon Treasure for 10% off. And with all that said, thank you for coming. And hang loose.